All right, welcome back to RVA Rapid Transit's Transit Talk. My name is Faith Walker. I'm the Executive Director for RVA Rapid Transit, and we are a nonprofit here in the Richmond region. We are dedicated to frequent and far-reaching public transportation. We want to see buses go more places. We want people to have dignified places to wait on the bus. We also want to make sure that riders have a part in the decision-making process with their voice. And then last but not least, we want to see the continuation of zero fare. And so today, we have some special guests coming to talk about what would you do with $3 million in the city's budget. And so, but before we get there, I want to give some housekeeping notes. This is recorded, and so if everyone will stay on mute, we will have an opportunity at the end of the session for you to ask your questions. And also until then, definitely chime in on the chat if you find something interesting or you'd like to make a comment. We love to see those. But if you have a question, make sure you do #Q so that we can be clear that it is a question that you would like us to ask, and we will make sure we ask that during the appropriate time. But before we get started, we're going to go right into the news. And so let's talk about what's happening in transportation right now, what's in the news. Myself and Stephanie, we got an awesome opportunity to visit New Orleans this past, or 2 weeks ago. We met the team at Ride New Orleans. Ride New Orleans is a nonprofit also dedicated to advocating for public transportation, but in the New Orleans region. And they're doing incredible work. I found a lot of parallels in our work, and it was just really great to connect with another group, really experiencing some of the same things, but also experiencing some of the same wins. One of the most interesting things that I found out is that in 2005, right before Katrina happened, they had over 300 buses running throughout the region, including their what is it, the boat, the ferry that goes across the Mississippi, but also all of their trolley cars. But now they only have 90 buses running. So they went from 300 buses running throughout the region to 90. And so almost 20 years later, after Katrina, they're still recuperating or still working on trying to build back that important infrastructure when it comes to public transportation. We also attended the WTS International Conference. This is a conference that takes place every year. This year, there was over 1,200 women throughout the United States and some internationally who got together. There's chapters for women in transportation throughout the United States. And all the chapters got together, and there's workshops and event ceremonies. What you see on the right-hand side of your screen is the dinner ceremony. There's also a foundation of it. So it's women in transportation, but also women advancing women in transportation. So there's a foundation that gives out scholarships at this dinner. So that was pretty beautiful. And then next year it would be in Toronto. So I've heard some really cool things about Toronto and how Toronto is progressing in public transportation. That's a picture of the streetcar. It was amazing to see just the whole street lined with tracks. This is on Canal Street. And so this was right in front of our hotel and in front of the hotel of the conference. And so trolleys were just riding up and down all day long, and you can just hop on. And so that was a great experience. I almost really wished we had trolleys here. I mean, almost, I do wish we still had the trolleys here. Can you imagine what Broad Street would look like if there were tracks running down Broad Street just like that? And so with that, I want to give you some news about some GRTC updates. So GRTC just announced yesterday in their board meeting. So zero fare continues through June 31st of 2025. So that is guaranteed, okay? And then they have developed a transit access program, assistance program, where they're encouraging organizations to donate funds in relations to keeping zero fare going. With that donation also comes a marketing package. So reach out to GRTC if you have any questions about that, especially Adrian Torres. The proposed budget for FY25 is $90 million. When I started this work, the proposed budget was only $70 million. So GRTC is growing leaps and bounds. A huge part of that transition in their budget is going to wages and staff. So this is great. And so one of the biggest issues of us not seeing a lot of expansion, but also frequency in the latter years is because the lack of staff and employment. And so now GRTC's top wage is going up to 3180. That's a big jump from even last year. And then their top wage up to 3291, and then compared to 2993. So I mean, this is great. And so I think GRTC's board president, he made it very clear that he wanted to be GRTC to be very competitive when it came to the job market. So I think GRTC is on track to do that. So upcoming next month, they're going to vote on a 10-year plan. And so I would encourage you, we're going to talk a little bit later about how you can know what that 10-year plan is. And then the ETI plan, so their GRTC's Essential Transit Infrastructure Plan is really making headway. They have a goal to install anywhere from 50 to 75 shelters and benches throughout the entire region. So I wanted to show a video to you guys so you can see.
Accessible to everyone is now underway, and it's creating some pretty big changes already.
Some benches have been installed already, and if you've ever been waiting for the bus in the cold or when you're tired, then these improvements are certainly for you. Madison McNamee has details.
So it is actually kind of a big deal.
Dozens of GRTC stops now have benches while you wait, a big improvement for riders and the overall safety of the Richmond area.
We know that overwhelmingly there is a desire for and a demand for more, better bus stop infrastructure. I mean, we hear it from the community. We see it in like the RVA Rapid Transit report.
It's all a part of GRTC's 2022 Essential Transit Infrastructure Plan, a process to improve accessibility at its stops. That means benches and or shelters along with trash cans, ADA accessible pads for 75% of its stops. Things that should be seen as a basic need, but haven't been there in the past.
You're standing at a very nice, protected, safe, well-lit, comfortable station. And the more we can provide that experience across the network, the more accessible we make transit for people.
The benches are going near resource centers or housing, and then some of the busier stops will get a shelter based on where the need is.
It's all about making sure that while we're prioritizing getting as much into the community as we possibly can, we also do it in a way that's equitable.
But making that happen hasn't been as easy.
It's an involved process. There's a lot that goes into that. One is that we try and make sure that everything is engineered for safety.
Each bench costs around $1,600 and has to be approved by the city.
So you have way more than 5 feet to make sure that you can get on the bus, whether you're walking, rolling, using a assisted mobility device, just anything you might need to get on the bus. There's plenty of space and plenty of opportunity.
In the past, GRTC has seen cars run into stops, wrecking the old infrastructure. This new plan prevents that while creating a comfortable spot for riders.
It's important for everyone, if you're old, if you're tired, if you're just having a day and you'd like to sit down, to be able to sit down.
Now, this is one of the 30 benches already here, and then I'm told 30 more are on the way now, and then around 50 shelters are going to be installed around the city in the coming months. In Richmond, Madison McNamee, 12 on your side.
Wow.
This is
50 shelters installed. That's huge, guys. I'm so incredibly thankful to GRTC for taking the initiative. This is something that we, RV Rapid Transit, has been working on and advocating for. So that is underway. So right now, and then HB 285, I know we worked really hard on passing some legislation that speeds up the process, especially installing infrastructure on state maintained roads, different from the city. So that's not going to start. We won't see that impact until July. So I'll love to report on that and what the plans are for GRTC in the coming months. I want to turn it over to our programs and community engagement manager, Stephanie, and she's going to be doing our writer's voice portion. All right, Stephanie, take it away.
Okay, good to see you all today. Welcome. If you want to change the slide, thank you. Awesome. All right, so welcome to the Writer's Voice portion of our transit talk today. We got two really important comments up. First, we got Razel feeling safer being on the bus, and not just from like he breaks it down. He's got a few different angles that sometimes he chooses to ride the bus, as he says, to stay out of trouble. So we'll play it, and I'll say a little bit more right after it. I can't hear it. Something's going on. Can y'all hear it? It worked in the demo, so there we go.
Oh, I was on mute.
Okay. Awesome.
My name is Razzle. I'll take the bus or whatever, but I also drive as well. I find it convenient for me to take the bus to avoid trouble. Sometimes, like when I drive, like the roads be really, really packed, and sometimes like accidents happen sometimes, and I'll be trying to avoid accidents sometimes. So I figure if someone else drives, and I gotta avoid it. Or sometimes police sometimes cause me trouble sometimes, given my history and the fact that I drive really expensive cars. So I sometimes try to be low key. So I don't want everybody knowing I have money. So I'd rather drive the bus and blend in with everybody else.
Yeah. So the first thing, right, congestion. We know that our roads are often just backed up, and they contribute to air pollution. They contribute to all of these negative health effects for us, not to mention the stress. So being on the bus frees all that space up. But then he also, he mentions getting negative attention from law enforcement. And we also, unfortunately, know the stereotypes of driving while black or being pulled over just for standing out from the crowd. So those are some really interesting ways to think about why it's so important to have a robust public transportation system so that folks can get to where they need to go and actually feel safe and secure doing it. So that's Razel. And then we'll go to Lyle. And Lyle's story is like, it's just a very real picture of how deeply important zero fare is and how impactful it can be for families.
Wild Turkey, routes 1C and 12. I'm disabled and zero fare, even though I'd have a discount, would still cost my family a lot of money because my son is autistic and he goes to Thomas Jefferson High School on the IB program, and he uses city transit while we were homeless, and we wouldn't have been able to afford getting back and forth to school and work and doctor's appointments and pharmacy and grocery shopping and food banks, and just between all that, with monthly passes for 4 people, it would have cost uh, over $100, and we just don't have that when we were homeless, and we still don't have it now that we have public housing.
Yeah. So Lyle's story is so powerful. I spoke with Lyle for it was a good 20 minutes, and we spoke a little longer than normal because his bus didn't come on time. And that resulted in him being late to his job. He is Lyle is disabled, as he said, but he still works. He still has a job. And so he relies on public transportation to get to his job, to make the money that he can to support his family. So it's just, I'm super glad to hear zero fare is guaranteed at least for another year. And that we are going to do everything that we can to support GRTC in making it permanent, especially for folks like Lyle. Then I wanted to point out this photo on the bottom here, this kind of piece of paper with all these words. Recently, our team at RVA Rapid Transit got to go to a partner day. So Virginia Conservation Network is one of our partners. They really support what we do, and they support the efforts of all kinds of climate justice activities across Virginia. And this was a little breakout session we had with folks, advocates who also are working towards bettering public transportation all across the state. And these are just some of the words that came up when people spoke about why they care so much about public transportation. So we see, equity was the number one answer I heard. We had justice. People want to have rural connectivity, climate goals, and a positive quality of life and things like that. So I thought that would be good to share with you all too, just so you have a sense of, there's so many people across the state who are working towards this vision. Yeah, so thank you very much. And I'll pass it back to you, Faith.
Thank you, Stephanie. It was really powerful to hear the stories of the impact stories of what zero fare is doing in people's lives. And thank you for collecting those stories. All right, so we're going to turn it over to our special guests and why you all came. What would you do with $3 million? How would you spend it for Richmond's budget? And so we have some special guests here with us, Ryan and Lydiana, who are going to share with us Richmond's new initiative to include citizens in the part of the process where they can participate in distinguishing where that money goes. So I'm going to turn it over to Lyle and Lydiana. Please take it away. All right, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen so you can see.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Perfect.
I lost access to screen sharing.
All right, love, I can make that happen for you. Give me a second. Okay.
There we go. Thank you.
All right.
All right.
Go.
All right, yeah, so thanks everyone for having us here today. I'm really excited to be here as someone that rides the pulse every day. That's my main means of transportation. So this is, combining two things that are really important and topical in my day-to-day life. So first off, I just want to introduce myself. I'm Ryan Jackson. I'm the organizer with the Participatory Budgeting, and I'll pass it off to you, Lydiana.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. Hi, folks. My name is Lydiana Delgado. I am the Civic Engagement Coordinator for the City Council of Richmond. Just wanted to send apologies on behalf of Matthew that he unfortunately had something come up urgently and wasn't able to be here with us today, but he transitioned us over to being able to present these slides, and he put this PowerPoint together, so big shout out to him. But yeah, just to get started, we're going to be going over participatory budgeting in Richmond, the first ever in the city of Richmond, and how we plan on doing that, the money allocation, and we're going to go over a little bit of the community engagement we've already been seeing.
Thank you, Lydiana. All right, let's do it. All right, so first, we like to start with, I always like to ask people, like, what do you think about when you see like this massive spreadsheet of numbers? Does anyone have an answer? Well, what's that? I'm sorry. Thought I heard someone.
Most people will put it in the chat.
Yeah, I see power in the chat. Exactly. Like these numbers tell the story of where power is distributed throughout the city, right? If you follow the money, you can follow the power. And so as Richmond Participatory Budgeting, what we want to do is distribute that power back into the hands of people throughout the city. So instead of like this massive budget, and as I saw you mentioning, Stephanie, it's kind of hard to, myself included, to look at this and make any sense of it. It's just it's a massive spreadsheet. There's very little public input on the budget. It's not a very transparent process. So with the Richmond People's Budget, what we want to do is flip that narrative to where it is once again a budget that people can look under the hood and see exactly what's happening, and not only can see what's happening, but can make things happen and spend the money where they want it to be spent. You go to the next slide, please. Awesome. So the cool thing about PB is it's not a new program. It started in Brazil in 1989, and it's slowly made its way across the hemispheres. Right now, its largest program is in Paris, but we just want to show you a real quick video about how it works.
You live in this community and you pay taxes. Come out and vote and decide how your tax dollars get spent.
Participatory budgeting gives people real power over real money to make the decisions that affect their lives. It's a democratic process in which ordinary community members directly decide the spends of parts of the public budget.
This is different because you're actually voting for where the money is going to be spent instead of allowing them to decide where to spend the money. It knows better about their community than the people that live in the community.
Not be afraid of the big words. Participatory budgeting, it sounds boring, but it's the opposite of that.
So how does this work? First, people brainstorm ideas. They come together in meetings and assemblies and start to think of what kinds of projects they would like to see in their neighborhood.
We have to think big. We have $1 million that we can use, so we can fund parks, health issues, streets.
Volunteers work with experts to turn people's initial ideas into full project proposals.
We started with maybe about 40 projects, and so we had a series of budget delegate meetings, and we narrowed down the list into about 4 or 5 projects.
We met with the Parks Department and we talked about what we wanted to see change in some of the parks and how we were going to work with them.
What are the real needs in the community? If you only have a certain amount of money, what is it that you can do that's going to benefit as many people as possible? Training of new benches, modern benches, seniors have nowhere to go.
Displays at bus shelters throughout the district, and it will tell people when the next bus is due to arrive.
We're asking for
state-of-the-art fitness center.
to put solar panels on a firehouse.
After volunteers share the top projects, the community gets ready to vote.
So we're validating every voice in our community and saying, you know what, whatever your position is, you live in our community, you have a right to decide, and that me as a representative and government should respond and should listen to that voice. Anybody can vote in this process, immigrants, whether you're documented or not, and people that normally don't get to vote.
Most people, they don't even know that 60-year-olds come out here for today. Some of them are really surprised. They say, really? I said, yeah. They have a voice.
The projects with the most votes get funded. The Red Hook Library Community Garden. Right here. The project then implemented in the next few years. The following year, the process starts again. People brainstorm new ideas, turn them into new projects, vote on them, and fund more improvements for their community. TV becomes part of the budget process. It becomes a new way of government.
I think this is like the greatest wave of democracy coming into the United States. It started before Toa Lake Brazil in 1989.
From there, it spread all over Latin America to over 1,500 cities around the world. In Toronto, public health lieutenants have decided to spend millions of dollars on improvements to their buildings. City council members in Chicago, New York, and other cities have engaged thousands of residents in allocating discretionary funds. Entire cities have launched PD, such as in Vallejo, California, for funds from the sales tax, and in Boston for youth funds. Even schools and universities have used PD.
This was a great opportunity for you to be a part of something and better the city you live in. And who would want to take advantage of that?
Creating a more educated platform of voters overall. I think this can only be good for the big project of democracy.
Thank you. Yeah, so as you've seen the video, New York City has a pretty robust PV program. It's $30 million, which is, as of right now, 10 times our allotted budget. So it's really exciting to see that it is not only possible, like it's already happening with our neighbors up north, and so and down south, Durham is our sister city, and they're doing a $3 million program themselves. So it's not, you know, a unattainable goal for this program to continue growing. But now I'm going to get a little bit more into the process that they touched on and kind of where we're at. So now that we're in, you know, May of 2024, we've been working a lot on the design process in terms of like constructing exactly how we want this to work. And where we're at now and where we've been kind of transitioning into is between like brainstorming and developing. So we've been having workshops throughout the community in which we'll do like a mock PB process, which we'd love to do with y'all at some point as well. Be able to sit down, maybe go to a bus stop or something and brainstorm exactly how PB could aid riders. That's something that I think would be really, really awesome. And so then next, after the brainstorm process, we get into development of proposals. So you know, after working with people across the community to kind of educate them about the process and boosting engagement. Next, you know, we want to collect those ideas and we want to develop them into things that can tangibly make it to a ballot. And so that's what we're transitioning into now. Starting, it'll be in September when we start really collecting proposals and refining, which would lead us to the voting process ultimately. Which it was slated to be April of 2025. And so basically what we'll be doing in that chunk of time between September and April is, so we have a plan for a delegate commission alongside our regular steering commission that'll be making these proposals a reality. So a lot of people will come with like a really massive idea that perhaps can't be funded off the bat this year. But if we can bring it to something like a community fridge or a library at a bus stop, that's something that we can get on the ballot and get voted on in April. And the next that leads us to funding. That's what it's all about, right? It's about finally bringing that money, you know, into the fold, as opposed to just, you know, it's easy to talk about good ideas. It's harder to make them happen. And so that's the kind of accountability that we are looking for from everyone in the community, is to making sure that, you know, this money that the city has said the people can spend, that it actually. So that's why we're looking for as much participation as possible from everyone. Go to the next slide, please. So how will this happen in Richmond? And we talked a little bit about that, about how this is going to happen in Richmond, but it's going to take as many nodes of communication and nodes of collaboration as possible. So I'm going to pass it off to Lady on, and she'll go a little bit more into the technical side of exactly how PB is working in Richmond.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. So I think first thing is we have developed a PB steering commission. So this is a group of folks in the community who have volunteered themselves to spearhead this process. These folks meet regularly. They developed a rule book and basically designed the process on what this will look like. One of my favorite things that I like to tell folks in the community is that the city of Richmond is really just their personal pizza tracker. We are just here to let y'all know this is when idea collection is starting. This is when those ideas are turning into proposals. This is when you vote. This is who was the votes that were elected, or the projects that were elected, mind you. And this is when we're going to implement them. This whole process, it's supposed to be hands-off on the city's end, except for allocating the funds where they're supposed to go. But this whole thing is to give people the power and to give people the responsibility of having these funds and allocating them where they want them in their community. And that's where the financial equity comes into play. We recognize that the city of Richmond has a history of not allocating funds proportionally where they all need to go. We understand that districts 8, 9, 6, 7 have historically not received the funds that they should be receiving. So we designed this process with an equity lens in mind, and making sure that those districts are going to receive more of the $3 million than the districts like 1 or 2. Community impact, playing a role in active community engagement. This process is also meant to be an educator on how funds are spent. When we looked at that first rubric with all those numbers and we just saw all those departments, that doesn't really tell you much, and it doesn't paint a picture. It doesn't paint the full story. So we never really understand as constituents what is going on in that building at 900 and Broad Street. But this process is meant to give folks the opportunity to understand a little bit of how budgeting takes a role in our governing process. And $3 million it's a sliver. It's a sliver of the $3 billion budget that the city has in allocation. However, this process is going to grow to 5 million. It's going to grow to 7 million. And then after that, after we've reached 15 million total, the city is going to reevaluate and see how much more funds they want to be allocating to the PB process. Our hope, our internal hope, and what we're hoping ends up happening is that we reach $30 million in the PB process, which equates to 1% of the total city budget. Like I mentioned, we have the 3 million. Each district will automatically receive 200K, and 1.2 million is going to go into an equity fund. We're having conversations about what does that equity fund look like. Right now, we're looking at a 500, 300, 200K model where districts 8, 9, and I believe it was 7 will be receiving the majority 500K, and the other districts are going to be receiving between the 300 and the 200K. Okay, so these are some important components to know about the participatory budgeting process in the city of Richmond. Unlike New York's, theirs are 16 and up. City of Richmond is 14 and up. Our project boundaries are capital improvement projects. So anything like sidewalks, street lights, murals, monuments, overheads for buses, that can all be included within this process. The timeline right now is fall 2024 of spring 2025. This is just a timeline of collecting those ideas, voting on those ideas, and announcing the projects that are winners. One thing that is not mentioned on here is we also have similar accessibility to New York. Our process does not factor in your residency status in the city of Richmond. As long as you live, work, or go to school in the city, this process is for you. We're not going to be taking addresses, just going to be taking districts. What district you're allocating yourself to. Immigration status and post-incarceration status also not factors in this process. We will not be taking that information. And the voting process, we are going to have it on our brand new website that just launched at rvapb.org. And we're going to be having it in person. We're going to be setting voting location drop boxes throughout the city. So how do you get involved with PB? Well, we are still looking for some steering commission members. If you're in the city of Richmond and you want to be part of this process, you want to lead those efforts, we're looking for folks to be part of our steering commission. We have about 3 slots right now that are open in districts 8, 6, and 1, I believe. You can become an amplifier, and this can mean anything from just talking to your neighbor about it, sharing our content on Instagram, and just being part of the process. Attend our community events, attend our steering commission meetings, and learn what the process is looking like at that time, and like how can you continue to amplify the message. Sign up for our newsletter through our website, and of course, share your ideas. Sharing ideas is vital to this process. We need as many as we can get and more folks involved. We want to see folks come together and organizing themselves to bring forth a collective idea. And it's already happening. We had folks out at Broad Rock Library organize themselves and completely flood our share idea form, telling us that they need new computers over there. And we recognize that urgency, and we brought it directly to the city council member in the 8th district, and she's already taken a look at it. So it's also about having these things and knowing that we're looking at them, that we're checking up on what your needs are, and we're bringing it forth because we understand that maybe it's not something that can wait a year or 2. I just want to leave this screen on here a few seconds. If somebody has a burning idea in their mind and they want to share it right now, I welcome you all to check out this QR code that's going to lead you directly to our Google form for idea collections. If not, you can always go to rvapb.org and you can share your idea on our website as well. So our next community event is going to be happening May 29th at 6 p.m. at the Southside Community Service Center. We're going to have free food, drinks. We're going to have Spanish interpretation provided by the awesome OIRE office. It's also going to be live streamed. You should be able to access that through our website on the calendar. There should be a Teams invite on there if you want to access it virtually. And of course, we're going to be going over that mock participatory process. This is where folks in different tables get together. They come up with an idea they want in their community. They think of how much can that cost. So a great example is one of the last community meetings that I went to. Myself and a community member were like, well, we need another JRTC bus stop. I think it was somewhere between Scott's Addition and Willow Lawn. Just that distance was just so massive. We were like, okay, yeah, we need one there. And then we quickly found out that that would have cost like $4 million. But then we were like, okay, well, that's a great idea when we have like $30 million budget for PB. You know, when we get there, that's a great idea to implement. But it's just thinking about that and just thinking about, well, how much does that cost to actually happen and hopefully happen for free for folks. So it's learning a little bit about the process and hearing some really cool ideas that folks have. I've seen anything from more community fridges to more safe zone spaces to more street lights to more safety features added into our communities like crosswalks and lighted up areas. Turntables are a big one, murals, monuments, all that. All right, folks, thank you all so much for taking part in our presentation and wanting to learn more about the Richmond People's Budget. The link that's there below is going to give you direct access to our website and our socials and the flyer to our next event if you would like. Our website is also listed below along with our email. If you want to get in touch with us, please do so. We always love to hear from folks, and we love to collect more ideas and connect with more folks that are looking to partner, become amplifiers, and just truly embody the vision of what participatory budgeting looks like for the city of Richmond.
All right. Well, thank you, Lady Anna and Ryan. This is an amazing process, and I'm so excited to know that it's coming within our city. So what we're going to do is open it up to some questions. We have quite a bit. We have at least 10 minutes to take some questions. I think we have our first question from Nelson. It says, "Thank you for this. This is so exciting. Are there plans or set ways to pass on ideas to other city departments or council members that might end up costing more than is allocated for a given district, or just in general channels to share all the ideas raised with city council members and the mayor?" So, yeah.
Yes, of course. We have full council support. So we know that our council is super excited about this process, and we are starting to build those relationships with other city departments so we can start translating that information as well. Apart from this, we're building outdoor, out of the city sponsorships and partnerships. We're hopefully wanting to get to a model where if we cannot meet all the projects that are in high demand, we can look at our partners and say, hey, can you match this? Or hey, can we work together here to get this done because the community really wants this?
Well, that's great. I'm excited to know that all of the departments and offices are in collaboration with this process. So Alyssa says, "No questions, but I love listening to everything, and I'm excited to participate in the future events." I'm excited that this is opened up for folks who, I don't live in the city of Richmond, but I work in the city of Richmond, and a huge part of my advocacy happens within the city limits. So I'm excited to know that it's allowing people to all participate, especially if you work in the city of Richmond or you advocate within the city of Richmond. This is a great opportunity. So Stephanie says, for the steering committees, is the same criteria that a person doesn't necessarily need to live within the specific city district in order to serve on the committee? So I know you mentioned the 8th and others districts had seats available. Does those folks have to live within those districts?
I can, yeah,
Yes.
I can touch on the. Oh, sorry, Liviana.
Oh, sorry. I'll take this one. Yes, you do have to live within that district's boundaries, because part of your role is to be an amplifier in that district and to talk to folks within your network in your community. Our steering commission does get a bit of funding, so they are paid. However, we're going to be looking into building a center of delegation. So we're going to go over so many ideas collecting from the community, and there's just no way the 2.5 of us can probably go over thousands of ideas. So we recognize that, and we want to make sure we build a transparent process. So we're going to be putting forth a group of delegates from volunteers anywhere in the community to come and be part of the process as well. So these folks are just going to be looking at the ideas that are being submitted and check off the ones that are CIP approved, putting them into a pile, and that pile of ideas that are CIP approved are going to go into the city departments. We're going to get an estimate of how much are those going to cost. After we get those costs, the ones that are meeting the city or the district's criteria and how much they're allocated within the funding, the ones that are like check, they all good to go onto the ballot.
Great. So Michael says, do the projects need to be in the city of Richmond versus Henrico and the Richmond metro area?
Yeah, thank you for your question, Michael. As far as boundaries, it does need to be within the city limits of Richmond, just because it's a council approved program and ordinance, so it has to be the funding is only applicable to within the city limits.
Okay, and then Melissa says, "This is so exciting, and I'm glad to hear that the council is in full support. Will ideas that don't make the cut in one year be saved for future years, especially if the process grows in itself?" So I know about the stop. I'm assuming that stop that was mentioned between Scott's Addition and Willow Lawn, was that a pulse station by chance? Yeah. So that's probably why it's 4 million. But yeah, as the budget grows, how are you guys pinning those requests?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as Lydiana mentioned throughout the presentation, we are titrating up from 3 million to 5 million in the next cycle, and then up to 7 million. And that's for this initial PB push. So yeah, absolutely. Ideas that are, not able to be funded initially, just given their scale, and cost, can absolutely be pinned and brought back into the voting process as the cycle continues to grow. And so, as we move beyond 7 million to hopefully something closer to New York, 10 or 15 million, ideally we can fund larger projects like that and make sure that they don't get washed away just because a new cycle has begun.
Well, that's great. And I have to echo what Melissa is mentioning, that the equity being factored in the district's budget, as we see there's a disparity in the funds, the city funds spent in the south side of Richmond, that we see in a lot of different plans, especially the Richmond Connects plan. A lot of folks want more infrastructure, more sidewalks, more money to go within the south side of Richmond. So I definitely echo that, and to see that there is additional allocation specifically for the south side of Richmond is amazing. Any more questions? Oh, Claudia says, and Claudia Spirrell, she is a adopter on the south side of Richmond. She is one of the adopters for some of the major bus stops in the south of Richmond. So I know she's glad to see that. But thank you for hosting this meeting. She says, where do you need the most support now? I live in the 8th. So I think there was commission seats available, in the 8th. So yeah, how can Claudia support the 8th?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for offering that. That's really, really phenomenal. So first off, I do want to invite you to our community meeting next week on Wednesday the 29th at the Southside Community Center, where we will be going through a mock PB process, and you can kind of get more familiar in general. So we do have open commission seats, and one of them is in the 8th district. And so that's really where we need the most support in the 8th, is having that community amplifier, someone that can, bring PB to the people of the 8th district. We've been spending a lot of time out there. We were at the senior festival earlier this week, getting to know people and really, making PB part of the community. But, having someone that lives in the 8th district and that, can advocate for the 8th district and help advocate for PB would be really phenomenal. So thank you so much for reaching out.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry about that. I want to add one thing that I think is really important. It's also about building trust, because we know that the 8th and 7th and 9th have historically not have had that kind of funding before, and it's about making sure that they know that this process, it is not going away in November. It is not going away at any point. Like, this has been set in there, and this is going to happen. When I go and I talk to folks in the 8th district, it's about building that trust with them, because they're like, well, no, that's not going to happen here. We know how the city of Richmond typically plays, and it's just about showing up. Like, we show up to Councilwoman Trammell's meetings every month. We showed up to Hickory Hill. We're showing up over there because we know that it's all about building that trust and building that community with them.
So I guess, how can RV Rapid Transit and folks who may not live in these districts or the city of Richmond be an amplifier? What ways can we support you in this work?
I think a good way to support our work is amplifying it to the folks that you are meeting with in the community. When you hear someone say, hey, I almost got ran over, we need a crosswalk there. You're like, hey, the Richmond people's budget, that they can get that done, It's about making that connection and making that like folks aware that we're here and like we exist, and like this is their channel to like tell us, like, I want to know. When I open up our idea collection and I see bullet points, like I am so happy. And I'm like, this is someone in the community that generally took probably like 20-30 minutes on that Google form and told us every single thing that they want to get done. And all those things, we read through them carefully and we translate that information to the folks who can potentially do something about it right now. And I want folks to know that, like, we're checking and we're looking and we're watching and we're trying to connect. We're trying to connect internally and externally.
Yeah, I think Brittany wants to know what is the criteria in other localities choosing to receive this type of funding. I think I'm a Henrico County resident. This would be awesome if there was something like this in our county. I'm thinking that's what Brittany means. So um I know you guys were inspired, or the city of Richmond may have been inspired by other counties, but what are some ways that we can get this in Chesterfield and Henrico?
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Ryan.
yeah, that's a great question. So the process of getting PB in Richmond has taken some time. So Matthew really kind of brought it to city council as early as 2019. And of course, COVID slowed down a lot of that budgetary process. But as for bringing it to Henrico and just the greater Richmond area, I would say, bringing proposals to your city council and to your council seats, and really, bringing in the data the and showing like, hey, look, they're doing this in the city. Why can't we do this here? And talking about bringing accountability to government and bringing people into government it's almost like you're campaigning. We always joke like we're running for mayor with PB. Um, it's of course we're not actually running an election, but we really are looking to have the full support of the people of Richmond, and that's kind of I how I would say to bring PB to other places is to be an advocate for the program, and of course anyone that, like, if you guys ever need any support out there, we would love to help and attend your city council meetings, and maybe even like present to your council like how can we spread PB. So yeah, I would say that would be a phenomenal start, is bringing that to your council meetings and just making increasing awareness for it.
Yeah, I think that would be pretty powerful to present this to either Chesterfield boards of supervisors or Henrico County boards of supervisors when they have presentation process, especially after this first round, and to get progress and the impact that it's made on the city. I want to say thank you, Lydiana and Ryan, for the amazing work that you're doing. We absolutely look forward to partnering with you and amplifying this incredible process. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having us. We really appreciate it, and I'm gonna be hopping on the pulse after this, so we're all in this together.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank
All
you so
right.
much. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you. So with that, I want to go ahead and wrap up and tell you some of the things that we have coming forward. If you have not joined our newsletter, I encourage you to do so. One of the things that we want to do is we want to highlight GRTC's 10-year plan. And so GRTC, over the last few months, we have been collaborating and supporting them on collecting the public's feedback on where do you want service to extend? Where do you want routes to go? What frequencies do you want? Do you want more days on Saturday, more coverage on Saturdays and Sundays? And so GRTC has collected all of that data and information, and in June, they're going to approve the final plan. And so GRTC's board will most likely approve the 10-year plan. And so we're going to invite Frank Adarkwa, GRTC's Director of Planning and Scheduling, to share with us what is going to be looking like. What are the priorities for GRTC over the next 10 years? You don't want to miss that. And if you're on our newsletter, you'll be able to get the link once we have the Eventbrite up for registration. And so that's going to be June 27th, same time, 12 to 1 p.m. And then also, let's see. Mobility University, we just wrapped up our a session last night with Mobility University. We have one more session to go. And we're still accepting folks to participate. We serve dinner at 5:30, and at 6 o'clock, the session starts. And so the next session, we're going to be talking about walking and biking and how you as a mobility graduate can dive deep into participatory budgeting with Matthew Slots. And so that's going to take place next Wednesday at the Richmond Public Library main branch, 101 East Franklin Street. I believe someone is putting a link in the chat to so you can register. All right, and then our biggest event of the year is taking place on June 13th. This is the opportunity where we launch our State of Transit report. This report we do every year where we look at the 2040 vision plan from our from Plan RVA that says that by 2040, 13 corridors will have 10 to 15 minute bus service. So can you imagine 10 to 15 minute bus service throughout the entire region, or 13 different pulses running throughout the entire region? And we want to report on that progress. And so we have a major report that we're launching with a reception attached. So you can register. There's a link in the Eventbrite as well. But we're also looking for sponsorships. So and with those sponsorships, this will help us continue the work, help us continue the research, and advocate for that frequency and that expansions throughout the region. So if you would like more information on how you can become a sponsor, you can email me directly at faith@rvarapidtransit.org, or you can email faith or info@rvarapidtransit.org. So we definitely appreciate that. And also, last but not least, take action, ride the bus. Support transit by using transit. Ryan just mentioned he's about to hop on the pulse, so ride the bus. When you ride the bus, that shows demand. Our state funding process is based on ridership. So by you using the bus, it increases the amount of money that's extended in your neighborhood, but also the lines that you take. Also, sponsor a bus stop. You can adopt a stop. We're encouraging members just like Claudia to adopt bus stops throughout the region. You can reach out to Stephanie at rvarapidtransit.org. She can give you more information about adopting a bus stop. And then also share your story. We love to hear the stories like we heard of Lyle and the impact that transit has had on you. And so if you would like to share your story, we want to hear it. You can call 804-286-0007, and we love to share that story. And then last but not least, donate. Your support allows us to create and continue to do great content like this. So if you found value in this content, we would love your support and consider become a monthly donor. All right, so we'll see you next time. Thank you so much for joining us for our monthly transit talk. Have a good day.
Thank you all. Take care.
Thank you.